Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show. It's rare that we do these evening episodes now. I'm so used to getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning to get ready for a morning stream. Rarely ever do these on my own channel. I'm often either on Lee Judges or the Arsenal Lounge or Cybery Squad or wherever else just doing a show. But it's nice to join a lot of our Western listeners that would have tuned in who aren't usually awake for our morning show. So hello to all of you in the chat box. Do drop a like and subscribe. But this is our Let's Talk Arsenal show, our discussion series where we have a chat with a guest or two. But today I'm just joined by a pretty good one to talk about a lot of things social regarding Arsenal. I'm joined by Dan Potts. You all right, mate? How you doing?
Hello, mate. How you doing? Evening to all the chat. It is evening, isn't it? Yeah, we'll go with it. 5 p.m. That'll do. UK time, anyway. Good to see everyone regularly coming back as well. And thanks for having me on, Tom. Appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, the reason why I reached out to you to do this show is it's something that you said last night when we were doing Lee Judges TV, which, by the way, listeners, if you aren't subscribed, go over and subscribe. We did a really good show with Sophie and Lee and Dan last night, talking all about, we talked a lot about the Super Bowl. We talked a lot about kind of discipline of the players. It was a really good conversation, and it's worth definitely checking out if you haven't done so already. But something you said, literally in, I think, the first few minutes of the show, Dan, you said that you weren't going to give your view on the topic that we were discussing because people have already made their minds up about what I think about things. And that hit me because I was like, that's a load of BS. I mean, some people have, Dan, and unfortunately those people are always going to exist and you are going to get painted with a certain brush. But it bothered me because you shouldn't be put in a position where you feel like you can't say your opinion, because this isn't a situation where I feel like you're ever abusive about Arteta, despite having an opinion on him. You're not abusive about players. You're not abusive to other people. In my mind, in every discussion that we've had together, you've put your opinions across in the way that you do, and, you know, very coherently, and that's why we have a chat and regularly get on. So talk to me about kind of the reaction that you've been getting. And by the way, just for clarity, I reached out to Dan. He did not reach out to me. This isn't some like, come get me, please, help. This is me reaching out to Dan and genuinely being a bit bothered by the fact that you feel like you couldn't speak your mind on a topic.
I think the problem is with Tom, is that you do have opinions in a very split fan base. A lot of that split comes from Stan Kroenke. A lot of the split come from when Arsene Wenger was here. A lot of it comes from a generation of fans. I think there's a difference in opinions of some of the generations of fans that grew up winning, that didn't grow up winning, that grew up in the 70s, that have seen us go through highs and lows. I think that's where opinions differences have come from. I love differences of opinion. That's why I get on great with you and Harry, because we are really good friends, but actually we don't really agree in terms of where the club's going at times. And I think that we always debate it out well. And I've never fallen out with either of you. I've never fallen out with people over their opinions. Where I find it goes too far is when they start to take it quite personally and get very abusive. And that's when I just don't reply, because they're not up for a debate. They're up to try and screw people over. Some people do go about things wrong, in my opinion. They do. And I think sometimes that they can come over as quite toxic, and some of the stuff they say is quite toxic. And I think sometimes one of the biggest pros of social media is it connects people. One of the biggest cons of social media is it connects people because actually what it does is it connects some of the wrong people, and some of the text messages can come across completely wrong. So can social media tweets. They can come across, if read differently, very, very wrong. I think what we don't have as a fan base is one that is always on the same wavelength. And I like that in ways, but I also find it very frustrating because I don't believe that everybody should agree with my opinion. That's one thing I've never, ever said. And I can only back up my opinions with facts or evidence as to why I'm feeling that way. What I don't like is that you sometimes are seen as toxic or negative if you're questioning a decision that this manager's made, or if you're not understanding the process to what it should be. And I feel personally that if you're backing up that opinion, then you can have a discussion with a person who thinks that the process is going well and that Mikel Arteta has done a fantastic job. Of late, I don't feel there is as many on social media that want to do that. I think personally, that's why I love coming on podcasts, because I can speak to people that want to talk. Even some of the WhatsApp groups I'm in, or some of the Twitter or social media stuff that I hear, it is so abusive and so toxic that is a very unpleasant place to be. And if I'm honest with you, Tom, if it wasn't for me putting out content, I probably wouldn't be on social media, if I'm honest with you. I wasn't on social media when I started all this, and it was pleasant, you know. And all I got asked was, "Oh, it would be great if Dan Potts had Twitter or Instagram, and I could come and follow him, and we can look at the content." And I used to say to people who ask me, "Just please be polite and say I don't have social media. I don't really put out content. I'm normally part of other people's shows, so follow them," because I never have my own channels and stuff. And when I started the same old Arsenal and with Lee Judge's TV, I started to get social media and started to get a little bit of a following. And I've only been on there fairly recently, so I don't have a huge following, but it's fine by me.
Yeah.
I'm happy with who I've got, because I discuss with people who I believe want to talk football. My problem is you get a lot of people that believe, if you don't believe in the process, if you don't clap at every win or be happy with 3 points at every single moment of time, or you're not happy with the fact that we gave Man City a game, or if you can not accept that drawing to Burnley was okay because they're a good side that played with a low block, then you're a bad fan. Sometimes when people have the opinion of, oh, if you turn up to a game and you're not sitting there clapping the team, waving a scarf around your head, then you're a bad fan. If you can't get to games, it doesn't mean you're a proper fan. I absolutely hate those fans. I don't actually call them fans, if I'm honest with you. And I personally feel that they have become, or they have allowed Arsenal to become a fan base that accepts the mediocrity of sixth place being a good season, or accepts that fourth place is good and that's all we can get. And I don't blame the fan base. I blame a section of the fan base for having that outlook. What I want to make clear, I am not telling you how to support your football club. If you want to get excited about Arsenal coming 12th, you crack on. Please do, because that is absolutely your right, and it's your opinion if you want to. But don't come and have a go at me for wanting to win the league. That's what I hate. And I get the abuse online sometimes. Just go, I demand the best. Go and support Tottenham. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, that, because if I wanted to demand the best, why would I go and support Tottenham? You know what I mean? The amount of times I hear that, just go and support Spurs, Dan. Why? They don't win anything. I want to demand the best and win stuff at Arsenal. And I think sometimes fans get confused with that. I just don't really like some of the abuse I see. And I think some of it's at me. Listen, I can take it. I've got thick skin. I wouldn't put myself on platforms like this if I couldn't. But I just feel that we can't unite as a fan base because of differing opinions that then become toxic all of a sudden. We should always want Arsenal to win. I am not a Arteta out. We were to lose the next 7 games, so this guy goes. There is nothing more I would love than Arsenal to go unbeaten for the rest of the season, secure Champions League football, and Arteta to turn this around. I'd love it. Why? Because I don't know if people can see behind me, but there are Arsenal shirts hanging behind me. I'm a massive Gooner. I go home and away, and I love everything to do with football, and that's why I come on platforms and talk about it. So I don't really understand where it gets that. There's a lot of people that don't like what I say. Absolutely 100% agree, and I respect that. I don't like what other people say as well.
I don't like some of the stuff you say.
Precisely. Yeah, exactly.
But it's the point about is that you can have a reasoned debate. Like, you can disagree with a point of view. It's about how you put that view across. And
precisely.
Look, the reason why we have a public chat boxes on both our channels is so people can voice our opinions. What I try and encourage specifically on this side of things is that if you've got an opinion or you disagree with a point of view, tell me why. And that's why I have discussions with you so often, Dan, is because whilst we disagree on things, you don't just turn around and go, nah, that's a load of BS, that's a load of bollocks, I don't want to talk about that, you're wrong. You go, I don't agree with you, and here are the reasons as to why I don't agree with you. And that's why we can have these reasoned debates. So that's what frustrated me when last night we sat on the show. I was reading through some of the comments in the comment section, because if I go on a show, I usually read through the comments, just see what the feedback is from the show. And the amount of comments in there just like saying you're so negative and all of this, like, I think there is a difference between being negative and being, critical. There are two very different things. Negative is, linked to abuse, like calling players X, Y, and Z. you saying that your view of the club is that you want Arsenal to be back in challenging for titles, back in the Champions League on a regular basis, and if what you're seeing on the pitch isn't giving you enough evidence that the person who's in charge isn't getting us to that, what you want us to be in that standard, then you want someone else to come in and try. And if what we've seen over the last 2 and a bit years is not enough to convince you that he's the right person, I don't think that you're wrong to have the view that someone else should be given another opportunity. My view of Arsenal has been very fluid over the last 12 months, and I think everyone who watches this channel will certainly agree to the fact that I've done shows where after the Villarreal game I thought Arteta should go, and I feel like that was a moment where any other big club in that moment would have moved on from their coach because they've underachieved in the league and they've been knocked out of the only competition to the previous manager that we had at the club. I said again after Manchester City in the 5-0 defeat, in that moment, at that time, 3 games in, 3 defeats, the transfer window wasn't particularly going amazing by that point, and we still had some work to do, and we got in I think we got in Tomiyasu, and I think maybe in Ramsdale, maybe not Ramsdale, but at least got in the right back that we needed after that game. But I said after the 5-0 that I think, again, this highlights that that nothing's really changed by this point. And then things change, and my opinion changes not with the wind, but with the evidence that I suggest and see on the pitch. And over the last 6 months to the point where we are now, I don't really see the evidence to suggest that Arteta should go. Whereas you sit differently. And if there was a chance to change Arteta now, I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you would take that opportunity, right? But that's not negative. Because your viewpoint of wanting to change the coach is, in your mind, for the benefit of the club. That's the issue. And like you just said there in your brief monologue, you want Arsenal to win the next game. And you want Arteta to change your opinion and to prove you wrong ultimately about him as well. That's what bugs me about when people call that perspective negative.
And I think what you're saying there, Tom, what I can relate to is that for me, if I was negative, I should be coming on here now and I should be saying, I really hope Arsenal go down because I just can't stand watching them anymore. I don't think I'm going to bother going anymore. It's putting me down. I don't care if they get relegated. I don't care if they fold. That to me is being negative because you don't want Arsenal to even win. What's the point? You might as well just give up. So that to me is completely different to wanting and demanding more. When you're demanding more, that to me is trying to be positive to say, I want the best for this club. For me, there's a lot of acceptance and mediocrity. And I want to explain what that means because there's a lot of fans that don't get that, right? Accepting mediocrity is accepting that a 6th place finish is a good season, right? If that's your opinion, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't mean that you're right or you're wrong. But what I believe it means is that you're accepting the mediocre. Because when I look at the teams around us playing poorly, I don't think that is accepting the best. It's accepting the mediocre. I just think that's a fact. I don't think that, wow, do you know what? Absolutely brilliant. Some people would say it's a realistic opinion because they believe that 6th is about where we should be. Again, if that's your opinion, back it up to me and explain to me why you think that is. And I wouldn't say you're negative. But what I personally feel as an opinion, and you might not agree with it, is that you're accepting mediocrity. The other thing people always say is when you have the comparisons to the other 2 managers. I don't really understand some of the protection against, sorry, what am I trying to say? Some of the protection for Arteta. I don't quite get that.
Could you give an example, just to give some clarity?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely, I can. So when Arsene Wenger was sacked, I wanted him sacked. When Unai Emery was sacked, I wanted him sacked.
Yeah.
When Arteta was coming into these group of losses at home against the Burnleys and the Wolves, I don't even want to go back through it, mate, because it was just brutal. I thought he deserved the sack, but he wasn't getting the sack. And a lot of the fans, for whatever reason, were disagreeing and saying, no, totally with it still, more than happy to give Mikel Arteta time. Now, me, Tom, I was actually really on my own. There was only a few of the fan base that were like, I don't think this guy's going to do it, I think it's a bit of a problem. And a lot of people telling me that I was way too quick to want him out because he just won an FA Cup and we were 12 games in and we were only 15th at the time. So that was apparently good enough to give him more time. So I sat there and I thought, do you know what? The players and the fans have bought into this it's no problem me moaning about it. I'm just going to have to sit there and accept that it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. And it got worse again. And we lost at White Hart Lane when he threw Party on and he was injured. And I just thought, no, I'm seeing too many mistakes here. This is absolute nuts. And I'll hold my hands up. I completely lost my head and fell out of love with it. And what I mean by lose my head is not sit there, start ranting and abuse at everybody like some people do. I just took a step back. I muted all of my WhatsApp groups. I come off of the social media platforms and I took a break from podcasting for 2 weeks because I was so away. I was so done with it. I thought I'm not enjoying this anymore because I'm on my own here. Nobody's agreeing with me.
It's
now,
a really hard place to be.
Horrendous place to be. Now, I wanted, and I'll come back to your question as to an example, I wanted the fan base to question Mikel Arteta like they were questioning Unai Emery for coming fifth and getting to a Europa League final with it not being good enough. 100% agree. Needed to get sacked. Lost the dressing room, lost the players, lost the fan base. Goodbye. Arsene Wenger, in the end, probably lost the majority of the fan base apart from the sentimental factor, and I don't think was really getting us to their progress level. Came fifth, sacked. With Mikel Arteta, we've come eighth twice now. And it seems that the fan base are accepting it, not happy with it, because they can't be happy, surely, with eighth place. I mean, I'd like to think they weren't, but they've accepted it. Now, why did they not accept eighth place under Unai Emery? People don't like to answer that. I think the answer is because he lost the dressing room and the head players were down in his tools on him. I think that's what the answer is. But it still doesn't answer the question as to why is eighth place okay under Mikel Arteta, but it wasn't okay under Unai Emery, and that's what I can't understand. So then I look at what's happening around us, and I think it must be something that he's doing around the place. It must be something amazing that he's doing. And then I start seeing records that we're breaking for the wrong reasons. I'm starting to see a lot of backing for him, a lot of money, a lot of transfer windows that Unai Emery wasn't really allowed. Certainly when he was allowed them, he wasn't allowed to pick his own players because there was a different structure in place then under Raul. And I'm starting to look at that thinking, you're getting a lot of things your way here. I need to start seeing progress soon. And of course, that's why a lot of the fan base now have started to say at the end of the season, if we're not into European football, I think it's time for the guy to go. And I respect that. But what I don't respect are the people that have been giving me absolute abuse. And I've taken so much, Tom, and I'll take it. Trust me. But what I don't like is when they then come in and start to say, I'm really sorry, mate. Like, you were right about this. No. Don't. It isn't about being right or wrong. Don't come in my inbox and start abusing me and then want to say sorry to me for saying that Arteta was. You questioned Arteta like nearly 2 years ago now, and I was not believing you. You've now flip flop. Tell me why. Tell me why you were giving me so much abuse at the start. What's made you change your mind? So then I do not get that, mate. And I don't understand the abuse. And I've started to get it of late. I put out a tweet after the Wolves game and I said, massive win tonight. Huge.
I replied to that.
Did you?
The one where was it the tweet where in the second sentence you said about Pepe? Yeah, so I replied to that tweet because this is where I think actually that tweet could be perceived as a bit negative. And obviously we're here to have a discussion and be level about this. So to play devil's advocate, I felt that the tweet that you put out, and I don't really want to misquote you, mate, so I want to probably find out what the Dan Arsenal 87. Let me just see if so make sure I'm not misquoting the tweet.
You're not the only one who's commented on this as well, mate. You're not the only one. A lot of people thought it was toxic or negative, and I couldn't understand why. But
here it is.
Let's
so
go for
you
it.
tweeted saying last night's 3 points were massive. Double exclamation mark. No idea why Arteta's obsession with Eddie is still ongoing, coming on ahead of Pepe. Poor discipline is a worry, but again, the great fight and well thought out win. Let's see if we can show consistency for the first time this season. I replied saying, as if that's your second sentence after that game. In the sense
I remember this now. I didn't realise it was that tweet. Go on, mate.
Yeah. So in the sense that I was like, this is where I feel like that you're going to get this perception of being negative because we've just had this huge win, massive 3 points against a side that, could have gone above us if they had beaten us. And, I felt like the tweet came from kind of that negative aspect I don't want to say negative. Pessimistic is probably the better word to use. Kind of a pessimistic outlook on the game because it was focused specifically on what Arteta did wrong rather than what we did right. Does that make sense?
100% it does. And I said right at the top of the show that sometimes a text message in a WhatsApp group can come across incorrectly because the way you read it.
Sure,
and exactly the same with social media. Exactly the same with a post. So what I'm saying there, and I was really surprised because there was a couple of people who said really toxic way to look at the game. And I thought,
Yeah.
really? Wow, imagine what I could have said if if it was, I could have done a lot worse. Christ alive. I looked at it and I thought, massive 3 points, and I thought it was huge. I looked at it thinking, why is Eddie coming on? Because Pepe was an option, and I didn't really think that there seems this obsession with Mikel Arteta and Eddie. I got to remember the last thing I said now. There's something else I said at the end. Oh, let's show consistency, because we haven't been able to do that this season.
Let's see if we can show consistency for the first time
this season, because we've not shown it at all this season, in my opinion.
Yeah.
People might think that 4 games is consistent. I don't really think that it is, if I'm honest. I think what we did under Unai Emery was 22 games. That to me is consistency. Sure. So when you're picking 3 or 4 games, or 5 or 6, was it? I think it was 5 we went through in the end, where we'd won or we're not lost. That to me is against the Leeds and Norwiches of this world. It is not really showing consistency to the level we want to see it. So that's all I question. Now, if I would have come out and said, don't understand everyone obsession, we beat Wolves, Wolves are crap, we beat them 1-0, we had 10 men, we're still getting people sent off, don't understand this discipline, Arteta's crap, why is he bringing Eddie on, let's move on, we're not like we're consistent anyway, I would totally understand why people would go, Jesus Christ, mate, I'll cheer up, we just got 3 points, so we've got 10 men, great performance, great to see the telepathy between the fans and the players, just cheer up, fella, and stop being toxic and negative. I totally get that, if that was the case. But I looked at the tweet and I thought, maybe I have put something wrong then. Let's read it again, because I had a couple of people say that sounds toxic. And there were people I respected as well, like yourself and another person. And I thought, let me read through this again then. What the hell's happened here? And I couldn't get it. I thought, okay, well, it's definitely not supposed to have come across like that.
A lot of people wouldn't do that. So, I mean, the fact that you read it back, and because, look, from my perspective, when I read your tweet about that, and why I responded as I did, saying as if that's your second sentence after the win, which, as you know, because we're mates, so it's tongue in cheek in the way that we respond. It's not like in a WhatsApp group or like you're speaking to a stranger off social media. You know, there's a bit of nuance to it. And I think that I was like, I read that and I was like, see, Dan, this is why I think people think you're negative, because after a win like that, the second sentence was a criticism about kind of a not insignificant, but I don't agree with the point. By the way, I was fine with Eddie Nketiah coming on. It was a like for like change for a striker. If it was, say, we were a goal down, or we were drawing and Pepe wasn't brought on at all, I think there's a solid argument. Why on earth is he not? And I think I wrote a piece today about how the Brentford game is going to be really telling after Martinelli's been suspended. Is if I don't expect Pepe to start, because I think Smith Rowe will come in, but if Pepe doesn't even get a look off the bench, I think that's then certainly something that we can talk about.
And that was definitely my thing, was why are we using Eddie instead of Pepe when one's got a contract, the other hasn't? That was all it was.
Which is fair. I think that the perception of it will be that the second sentence that you wrote after that game was a criticism, rather than going and putting, say, but in fairness to you, I mean, the first thing you wrote, last night's 3 points were massive, like that was the first thing you wrote. But I think because of this perception and this kind of behaviour profiling, which we talked a lot about last night about refereeing, that gets built up about people, that even from my perspective, who's someone coming at you from a very friendly point of view, even I looked at your tweet and went, oh, that's a bit negative. Like, oh, that's
and that's fair. And that doesn't mean what you've read is wrong there, Tom. That doesn't mean that what I have said there that comes across, that shouldn't, I shouldn't accept, that the tweet had come across negative. Maybe it did. It wasn't supposed to be, but maybe it did come across as negative. One thing that I find very hard, though, is that because I've made it quite clear that I'm questioning what's happening with the process and with Mikel Arteta, I'm never allowed to celebrate a win now. Because if I do...
Which is ridiculous.
Well, you're a flip-flop. You want him out. What are you celebrating a win for? Well, I'm celebrating a win because I support the club. I don't get this sort of thing, Yeah. And it's the other way around with that. Arteta supporters that believe he's doing a great job, they then lose a game, and then when they go quiet, everyone says, "Oh, where are you now with your Arteta banner? Where are you now?" And I don't get this. I've never understand this, and I'd like to think I don't come across as one of these. Where's everyone now then? Because I never have. I've never, the only thing I said once was with Kevin, and Kevin had said, "Where was everybody when we beat? Where was all these Arteta questions when we beat?" And I can't remember who it was at the time. Let's just say it was Norwich and Watford.
Sure.
And I said they were probably exactly the same fans that were very, very quiet when we'd lost to Everton and Manchester United. So you can work it both ways, because there are them that say trust the process when we win, and those that say, well, Arteta needs to be out now. He's lost to Everton. So you do get that. You do get the people with their agendas. I think the word that people use.
I hate that word as well.
I hate the word as well. But listen, there is no way in hell that I have not given the perception of being pessimistic or negative at times. Absolutely, 100% agree with that. But I don't believe that I'm a toxic negative fan because I'm trying to demand better. That to me is not toxic or negative. What's toxic or negative for me is trying to just be uh, pinpoint or be negative on everything about Arsenal Football Club, not just about questioning a manager. Now, let's take that, for example, that win the other night. I looked at that win, Tom, and I thought, bloody hell, that is fantastic. Like, that is so good to get 3 points there. Like, absolutely brilliant. Didn't expect it, especially when we had 10 men. But I looked at it long term, taking the 3 points. Now let's look at where we go from here. And this was my thought. I thought, you know what? We need to sort out our discipline still.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the goals because there's lack of goals still. And we need to show some consistency. That's not negative. That's just free facts, in my opinion, because nobody can say that we haven't got a discipline issue at the moment with 15 red cards in 2 years. Yeah. Nobody can say that we don't score goals with Eddie and Laka have got 3 between them this year. And nobody can say that we need to show consistency now if we want top 4. So I didn't see that as toxic. I just thought it was pretty factual, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, I don't know.
I can't disagree with those 3 points. I'm coming from the perspective of someone who's currently not in the camp of, say, Arteta out, which in itself, I hate these labels. The labels are so idiotic because at the end of the day, we should all be Arsenal in. That's the only thing that matters to me is the fact that Arsenal win and Arsenal win the next game. And it's mad to me that kind of like you get chucked into this camp. And I mean, I get people sending me messages. If we lose a game, people will go, "Are you Arteta out now, Tom?" Or if we win a game, are you Arteta in again now, Tom? Because my opinion on Arteta has changed. And that's something I think a lot of people really struggle with is the idea of a changing opinion. I feel like there's an element that people feel that they have to stay married to this viewpoint. And this is why I've asked you the question before, Dan, what would it take for you personally to change your mind on Arteta? And the fact that you have an answer for that question that isn't, there's nothing he can do.
Yeah.
Because if your answer was, there's nothing Arteta can do to change your mind, then the people that are saying you've got an agenda, you're a negative, toxic...
And they'd be right.
They'd be right. But the thing is, that's not where you're coming from. You're coming from the perspective where your perception of Arsenal is that they should be achieving more for what they've spent, for more what they've done, and for where we finished in the last 2 seasons being, in your mind, unacceptable. And, not just your mind, but even in my mind, I thought last season's finish was unacceptable, and that's why I was very much in the idea of changing manager at the end of last season. Let me just read out a couple of super chats because we've had some coming.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Wayne Sage says, Dan, I disagree. It's not acceptance, it's the understanding of expectations. Emery was expected to get us back into the Champions League. He failed on both fronts. Arteta was expected to rebuild a team, which takes time and not 1 season. Do you want to give Wayne the respect to respond?
And I respect Wayne. I know Wayne does call me out at times, and he comes on Lead Judges TV as well when he's come on other platforms. But I respect him. I don't sit there and start slating because he doesn't agree with me, because he's been respectful there. He says, Dan, I disagree, and this is why I disagree, and he's explained why he disagrees. And that's what I love about people. That's why I love coming onto these. I wouldn't come on these platforms if people agree. If everyone come on a platform, Tom, I'm just going, I agree with all that. It was a good podcast, wasn't it? Let's go. You want debate, you want disagreements, you want people to have opinions on it. So I respect Wayne's opinion. And the reason that I'm going to answer this one in the way I'm going to answer it is because I agree and I disagree in parts of it. What I do agree with is that, it takes time. And this is why I didn't want the process, because I didn't feel we should be given another 5-year process. I think that we've already waited long enough. I feel we needed a proven manager to try and win something over the next couple of years and put us back to where I believe we should be. And I didn't think appointing Mikel Arteta was the right manager because, like Wayne's pointed out, this takes time. And the reason it takes time is because you're going to need a complete new squad if you want to rebuild, with a young manager who's never been a manager before, with a novice in Edu who's had little experience in what his role is. And I think the whole inexperienced model is going to take time. And also what it's going to do is prove inconsistent results and liability mistakes, which we see in an ill discipline on the field. So all of those things have unfortunately come true, but it's no shock to me because I expected that to happen. That was the reason why I didn't want it to happen, though, because it was going to take too long and we were going to start to see it. So that was what was frustrating me, because I really wanted to be proven wrong. And I thought if we go into this young inexperienced model, we might see some mistakes like this. And unfortunately, we keep bloody seeing it. And this guy keeps bloody proving me right. And I want to be wrong. I really want him to prove me wrong, to say, look, I've just got us back into the Champions League. Stop your whining. This is what my job was, to get us back into the Champions League. Because that, in my opinion, is what Emery and Wenger were trying to do that they couldn't quite do. So if Mikel Arteta does that, am I going to sit there and go, I want this geezer gone? Of course I'm not. He deserves to be given another contract if we get to a stage of Champions League.
If he finishes top 4, you would give him a new contract.
He's
Yeah.
done his job. He's done his job. The job was to get back into the Champions League. In my opinion, people are saying it's back into Europe. I don't think it is. I don't think that's a good enough thing for us to move into. I
Sure.
personally don't. So if we get into the Champions League and he gets offered a new contract, I would be okay with that. If you said to me, would you rather he's got us into the Champions League? Do you think that we should keep Arteta or get Diego Simeone or somebody like that? Of course, I'm going to go with Diego Simeone. Well, I know you don't like Simeone, but you get what I
Yeah.
mean. That ilk of
Yeah.
manager. Let's go with Conte style, then someone like that. If you
Sure.
don't like Simeone, so
That's fine.
somebody like that, I would accept that. That would be the best move. However, what does he deserve? He deserves if he signs a new contract, I can't sit there and say what they're giving him another contract for. He's only got us
Yeah.
back into the Champions League, which we haven't been in for 6 years. That's job done. So if he does that this season, he'll start to prove me wrong, won't he? And then I can start to
Yeah.
get excited again about supporting Arsenal. And a lot of people in the chat and in the fan base will get excited because Dan was wrong. Because it seems that it's about that at the moment. Very bizarre,
I
very
hate that you
bizarre
feel
fan
that way,
base.
but
But
I wish
yeah.
I could disagree with you about that point, but I can't because the amount of times that in the other direction, say we've been losing, and I mean there was a point during the season when we finished 8th where at points I wanted Arteta to succeed so much that I feel like that point of view was blinding me to some of the things that were obviously going on. And by the end of the season, I had fallen out of that rhetoric, and I was very much of the opinion, look, we should be doing much better than this. Like we shouldn't be finishing 8th. We shouldn't be dropping out of Europe, even with the players available and the mistakes that were being made from a managerial perspective and a team selection perspective that led us to that point. This season, I've really kind of latched on to the good work that we did in the summer, besides not bringing in that central midfielder. I've latched on to the improvement in the way I see us playing. I do see improvements in the way that we're playing. You look at the games against Leeds and Norwich and those games during around the festive period before January hit, and I did see a small amount of consistency, not enough to make me go, oh, everything's fixed. Like, everything's going to be great.
Of
But
course.
I saw a really good case study of those few games from Southampton, West Ham, Norwich and Leeds, those games in particular, where you really saw the potential of this side. And I feel like if Arsenal can get that striker and get that midfielder in with this group, and even under this manager, we can go places with this team now. But the problem is if we do end up failing this season because of managerial decisions, and I do feel like there are plenty that we'll be able to highlight come the end of the season, say we finish 6th, 7th or 8th or whatever, then we can have a discussion about that. If we finish 4th, then you go down the other route and you say, look, we've got an exceptionally young team. Man United have got a better team than us. Liverpool, Chelsea and City have got a better team than us. If we finish 4th, in my opinion, we've done a great job to finish there and to get the maximum out of a very young side with its liabilities, without the striker because we weren't able to bring one in. Without that stuff, we managed to get ourselves 4th place, and that's deserving of a hell of a lot of credit. There was a great super chat from Joshua. Says, Dan, you're just as miserable as me, face it.
I love Joshua, man. Big up Joshua.
Fantastic
I tell you, I do get called miserable, but sometimes I am. I can't sit there and lie. I'm miserable when Arsenal lose football games. Sorry, it hurts. You know what I mean? So, of course, I'm miserable. I'm not happy when we lose. But to have the opinion that I'm happy when we lose or not happy when we win is totally wrong. Totally wrong. Totally wrong. I don't accept people that are either.
It does frustrate me when I see people like yourself and others that I know, aren't necessarily the biggest fans of Arteta, but all that they want is for the club to win, and to be labelled as someone who's happy when we lose is ridiculous, utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Wayne replied saying that I can agree with. I didn't want him as manager either, but I think he was left a total mess to clean up, and we should be finishing top 4 with this squad. I think that the Emery argument's a bit of a strange one with me, and I feel like the situation that Arteta took over from Emery was far different from the situation that Emery took over from Arsene Wenger. And the issue is, and the fair comeback to the point about, well, Arteta took on had a bad situation to take over us from, was that, well, maybe we should have gotten a coach with far more experience at that point to take on that group rather
and
than
that is my main concern and argument, mate, yeah.
And I can't disagree with that point of view. It was such a massive risk to get in someone. I think you'd struggle, anyone would struggle to try and justify bringing in a coach with no experience of top-level football or any first-team experience for that matter to take on that position that we were left in when Emery finally did depart. To go down this route is a huge, huge risk. It's just obvious. We're hoping that it pays off. Both of us are sitting here with differing opinions about the manager right now, and hoping that risk that we made back in 2019 eventually does pay off, because it means that Arsenal will have succeeded. So,
of course.
That's where we're sitting at right now. How I want to finish this, because we're out of time. and I want to run down to kind of the final point, is that based upon where you sat yesterday on the channel on Lee Judge's TV, and when you said about you didn't really want to put out your opinion because people have already made their mind up about you, what do you feel like needs to change for you to have a differing view? Because I hate to be blunt about this, but those people that are saying these things are probably never going to change their mind about you, Dan, even
No.
if you change your mind about the manager. It's you can't please everybody in this business. But do you think that maybe with self-reflection, you were wrong to say that, you shouldn't be putting your opinion across because other people have already made their minds up?
So the beauty of live streams is that you can't go back on what you say. And I've been done. Listen, I've done this for nearly 3 years now. So of course I've said stuff that has made myself look silly, or we've all messed up our lines, or we've all said stuff. Yeah, exactly. We've all said stuff that is rather embarrassing now that we were wrong about. I think my problem was I was getting so much abuse over the last few days because we'd beaten Wolves, and everyone thinks that I'm going to want Arteta out, and I shouldn't be celebrating. Why should I be happy? I want Arteta out, so why should I be celebrating an Arsenal win? And I'd received much abuse on social media, and people were saying, "Why don't you just go and die?" And I hope your family get cancer and all that. And I just thought, well, do you know what? Like maybe my opinion doesn't matter then. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I'll just keep quiet and let everyone else say stuff. So that was where I was going. It was half tongue in cheek, and if I'm honest with you, it was half through frustration of what people had been targeting me for the last few days. So that's why I'd kind of said, let's just not worry about what I want, because everybody seems to think I've got this Arteta out agenda thing, and it doesn't matter what he says, he's boring to listen to, and it's negative. So let's just crack on with somebody else. So I just thought personally, it would be interesting to see what your thoughts were, Lee's thoughts were, and Sophie's thoughts were. So that's why I'd said it. I was saying it in a bit of frustration and a bit of anger, I suppose. I haven't stopped in the last 2 years with what I believe. It doesn't mean that at times I haven't go on, Arteta, go on, keep going. You've got 4 wins on the trot now. Keep going. I'm one behind him thinking, come on, please don't make me get frustrated again, because it's just frustrating for me to see us go up and down, up and down, up and down. And I think after the Everton game, I was bombarded with DMs on Twitter and Instagram. Oh, I need him out now. I need him out now. I need him out now. And I thought, well, don't come to me. What do you want me to do? I've been saying that I've questioned this process for the last 18 months or so. And now you're telling me that perhaps I was right. But then, of course, as soon as we beat Norwich, Leeds, and then we went on that run again, everybody went quiet, and all of a sudden he's the man again. So I just think there's a lot of flip-flopping within the fan base. I've always been somebody that has an opinion, and I won't allow that opinion to change until something happens. And I'm not one of these opinion changes weekly. We won today, so I like Arteta. We lost today, so I don't like him, and I think he should be sacked. And there's a lot of fans that are like that. My opinion will change of Arteta when he gets us back into the Champions League, because I am a realist, Tom. I'm not expecting him to win a title this year or next year. I think that if we got into the Champions League, we would then be able to progress to that next level. And then, of course, I'm going to demand the best a bit. Again, I don't want to come sixth after the year after that, because we've got more games to play now and we've got a small squad.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? We then want to try and compete with the 3 that are ahead of us, whether that's Chelsea, City, or Liverpool, whoever it be. That's the next step. So that's how I'll start to change my opinion, mate. If we start to achieve what I believe our target should be, and that's Champions League football.
Yeah. Absolutely, and fingers crossed, and we both hope that we do achieve that. It would be a great achievement to see Arsenal back in Champions League. I miss that anthem playing throughout the Emirates a lot. I can't tell you how jealous and envious I am seeing other teams, especially when it's Spurs in that competition.
And then, of course, when you used to go to the home away games, and it was like, I'm not sure I can go tonight. I know, mind you, I'm only missing Arsenal Sparta Prague on a Tuesday night. God, I regret saying stuff like that. Unbelievable. I used to say to my dad, I'm working late, but at least it's only Sparta Prague in the Champions League.
And now we're sitting here watching Arsenal Vorskla.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable.
Yeah, of course. Look, I really hope that we achieve it this season. It would be great. And not because of any kind of rhetoric or people being proven wrong, because it's Arsenal succeeding, and that's what comes first, and that's what's most important is the Arsenal. Dan, thank you so much, mate, for taking time out your afternoon to come and have a chat. Always an absolute pleasure to speak with you, mate. Tell people where they can find you and what you're going to be up to.
Well, listen, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate you listening to me and listening to everyone in the chat. And it's great to see you all and great to have your opinions as well and debate with you. If you do want to come and follow me, it's up to you. Instagram and Twitter at DanArsenal87. You'll see me on Lee Judges TV and the Same Old Arsenal podcasts. And we'll have regular content to put out to you for that. And you'll probably see a lot of Tom on the Lee Judges TV as well with us. So great stuff, Tom. Appreciate that, mate.
Yeah, no, it's great going on the show. I like the dynamic that we've got with Sophie and Harry when he's able to make it too. It's a good group, and I think it's enough kind of different angles that you get a really good discussion going on topics, and we're all good at putting it across in respectful ways, which is always a big bonus as well. So, yeah, make sure people you check out Lee Judges TV, go and subscribe, and help them get on their way. I think the next landmark is 30k, so help them get up to 30k. It's the next one to go, and yeah, you can see Dan on plenty of content, and you'll see him back on the channel, I'm sure, very, very soon too. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the Gooner Talk as well. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for the next one, and tomorrow you should be getting your next William Saliba loan update as well. So I look forward to bringing you that content too. See you soon, guys. Have a fantastic day, and as always, up the Arsenal.